Hey guys, welcome back. Revan here, bringing you episode 10 of MC Eternal, where today we are going to make more power than we know what to do with. We are going to be crafting the Mekanism Reactor. Now, I personally didn't even know that this existed up until, I don't know, maybe about a day ago, but we're gonna knock it out, see what we can't get done, and see how much power we can't get. So sit back, enjoy the episode, and let's see what we can't get done. As you guys can see, we are here inside of a giant compact cube. We have some weird machinery on the wall, which we'll get into in a sec, and we have a special little chest right on over here. So this chest contains everything that we are going to need in order to build the Mekanism Reactor. Now, this is going to be interesting. One, like I mentioned earlier, I've never done this before. I never even knew this reactor existed. So I tried looking online to see if I could find anything on it, and I found one video from several years ago that talked about this. So other than that, I didn't really find a whole lot. So if anything has changed between now and 4 years ago, we might be in for a little hurting here. But let's just take these supplies and we'll see about getting this thing built. Now this over here, like I said, after I build it, I'll kind of run you through what this does, but this is necessary to start the reactor. These are lasers, and you know, they can hurt you if you jump through them. They will burn you. So the reactor is a bit of an odd shape. So first we need to find the center of the room, come out a few blocks from the wall, and we are going to be making a almost like a star pattern down here, and just fill this in. Now, every side of this reactor is exactly the same shape. They're all going to be this same shape. Obviously, the front is going to have certain things on it, like ports for injecting the fuel, and it's going to have a controller and a port on the back to actually retrieve the energy from, and we'll be outputting that back through this wall here. The sides, they need to be made out of reactor glass. And it's going to be like the same plus shape on the outside. So we'll put casings down here, and then in the front, since this is where we're going to be inputting our fuel for it, we are going to put two ports, because this will run off of two separate fuels. And there we go. Then one will go on each side here, and we'll do something similar for the other side, except we're actually going to have it be all glass. And the frames on the sides and the top, and then the back, we are going to have a reactor port in the center, and that's where we're going to be taking energy out of, and then the rest will just be covered with the glass and the frames. There we go. Now this side, there is a very important piece. It's called this laser focus matrix. So this is necessary to get the reactor started. So you're going to put that directly in the center, in line with our lasers that we have here. And if that is not there, you'll never get this thing to start. So don't forget the laser focus matrix over there. And then for the top, we can just fill this all in with the frames. And then the middle section needs to be the reactor controller. So if we looked at it, at the controller, it says formed. It has a couple little GUIs in here. One that shows you the case heating and the inside. One for the fuel. You can change the injection rate. I believe it'll go up to 99. We'll probably start with something a lot lower, because I'm not 100% sure how hot this is going to get, or what we're going to be dealing with there. And obviously the energy. Now, to get this started, obviously, once we pump in our fuels in it, there's a couple other things that we're going to need. We're going to need this Holram. If I'm pronouncing it correctly, we need to fill this up with DT fuel and then place this in the controller. And we need to fire this laser into the focus to start the actual reaction. So we can't do that yet because we haven't hooked up our gas pipes into it. So you do not need 3 of these. These are laser amplifiers. You technically only need 1, but they receive power from these lasers right here, and they're not very fast at charging. Although I have ultimate coils on here and I took off the limit on my flex network, this still took quite a bit of time to store up all the energy that it needed. So yes, you definitely don't want to fire this until you're completely ready, because then you're just gonna have to sit and wait for it to recharge again. So next thing we need to do is go out and start getting our fuels ready. Now what we're going to fuel this with, we're going to fuel it with 2 different types of fuels. We're going to fuel it with tritium and deuterium. So if we look at tritium for Mekanism, that is formed in the solar neutron activator, and it utilizes lithium. So the way that we attack that is we have our farm upstairs that has the Agricraft lithium seeds. We are then auto-crafting those seeds into lithium ingots and running them down into an elite crushing factory. This doesn't need to be elite. You could probably make do with an advanced as long as you have the upgrades in. But it took a lot of lithium to store up a bit of fuel. I have 3 of the ultimate gas tanks full of tritium, which again is just crushed up lithium run through a chemical oxidizer, which will produce the lithium gas. I'm then pumping that gas into an ultimate gas tank, and it is running straight up to our neuron activator, if I'm saying that correctly. Neutron activator, my apologies. So the reason that I have 3 ultimate tanks right here, and even though I don't believe that this reactor is going to take that much, is because of the fact that the activator, if we come up and take a look at this, is only power. It can only be powered by solar power. So this is only going to be working during the day. So whatever tritium that you're producing during the day needs to be enough that will keep the reactor up and running at night as well. So if you don't have a big enough stockpile for it, or if you start noticing that you're burning through more of the tritium than you can produce, then you may want to look at creating either another chemical oxidizer, an additional neutron activator, or what. But for what I think we're going to be using this for, 3 tanks should be more than enough, and we should never run out of this fuel. Second fuel that we need is the deuterium. Now that is fairly simple and fairly straightforward to make. You just need water source blocks underneath some of the Mekanism electric pumps, and inside the pumps, the important part is they need filters. Now the filters are very simple to make. It is just a couple enriched alloys, some glass, and some pulverized tin. And each one of them needs 1 filter. They will then suck up the water, filter it out, and produce heavy water. That heavy water then needs to go through an electrolytic separator, in which case it'll be separated into deuterium and oxygen. The oxygen I have set to just dump excess because we don't care about it. We don't need it for anything in this build. If you wanted to be doing ore tripling or anything like that, that Mekanism allows, then you may want to save it. But in our case, we have no use for it. Now the deuterium is put into 2 ultimate gas tanks. Again, you may not need ultimate gas tanks. You may only need 1. It's something that you want to play around with. But seeing as I've never actually built this reactor or utilized it before on a previous mod pack, I don't know what its fuel ask is going to be. So I'm playing a little bit safer than I might normally. Now, earlier I mentioned you need the hull ROM to actually start the reactor. It's kind of like the ignition fuel. So that is just simply made by some deuterium and some tritium tossed into a chemical infuser, and you get the DT fuel. So if we take this hull ROM and toss it in there and fill it up, we are now ready to start the reactor. The other thing that we need to do is we need to move this cube over here, probably somewhere in between our tanks. So I am thinking that I'm just going to, let's see, grab me a piece of marble. We just need one for now. I'm going to put it right here. So let's just pick this guy up and toss it in. I'm just going to grab a few of the gas pipes from Mekanism and a couple ports for this, and we will be right back. All right, so we have everything that we should need right now. I made a couple more of the ultimate pressurized tubes and I grabbed 3 tunnels. That should be all that we need. And I'm also grabbing cryo-stabilized flux duct for actually taking the power out of the reactor. The reason I'm doing this is, again, I do not know what this is supposed to produce. From what I have seen, it should produce quite a bit of RF, and the Mekanism, the highest rated RF transfer pipes that they have, the universal cables, the ultimate only transfers about 100,000 RF per tick. So if the reactor produces more than that, we're going to be bottlenecked. So the cryo-stabilized flux ducts, they don't have a limit. So the other issue that we're having is our induction matrix doesn't necessarily have that big of a capacity. So we're going to have to look to fix that, because if this reactor starts and is producing that much energy, I don't know what it's going to do when it caps out. Like, I don't know if it's going to shut off or what. And from my understanding, if it shuts down, it's kind of a pain to get started again. So let's go inside and set up our pipes. Now, if you remember, we had a north and south pipe. So we are just going to run these two across to our wall, and we are going to set up a couple of the tunnels. Now, these tunnels, we want one facing south and one facing north. That should give us access to the outside on the same sides. And then for the rear, we're just going to take that, and let's say we want this one to be facing east. And we will take our cryo-stabilized flux ducts and just hook that up there. And so last thing we need to do is just hook you guys up. Take our configurator and hope that this will actually go through. So give me 1 sec to set this up, and I'll be right back. Okay, well, once we hook the pipes up to the outside, they actually joined with the wall. So that is giving me hope that this is working correctly. So let's just go out and see what happens if we turn on our gases. So if we come over here to our tanks and we say we want them all to output from the top, and make sure auto eject is on. Yep, that should be good. So those are all set to output from the top. Now we just have to have this tank over here set to output from the side. I already have it so that the gas is coming in and it's being pushed up into this top tank. So it should flow directly over. Now, our matrix is over there. So rethinking our plan of having the energy coming out of the back is going to make our piping a little bit messy. So I think it'd be best if we went back in and switched it so that the electricity or the RF is coming out of the front. So in order to do that, all we need to do is come back over to this wall right here, and let's just break one of these flux ducts so we actually have access to the wall. So we'll just come back and click on it again. Oop, went too far. West. All right, there we go. Now put the ductwork back in. If we look into our controller and look under fuel, we'll notice that we're still empty. So for whatever reason, it is not coming through these ports. So give me a sec to look into this, and I'll be right back. Well, you see, what had happened was, I'm not really sure why, but gas will not pass into the compact cubes, or at least I can't get it to. I tried the Mekanism pipes and it wouldn't work. I possibly could have tried the Ender IO pipes, but I figured, you know what? Nah, let's just forget the whole compact cube. I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen? The reactor blows up in our base? Hope not. Anyways, so what I ended up doing is I rebuilt the reactor back in here. I had to do quite a bit of an extension here. If you remember last time, I only had 3 lasers per side. I have substantially more than that now. The reason being, this took about an hour and a half to charge up. So I just kept adding lasers, hoping it would go faster. It seems like the lasers themselves have a maximum output, and it seems to be probably around 20,000 RF a tick per laser. So yes, it definitely, if you don't have a lot of time to just sit around and wait, it helps to make more of these. So we have this set up, and we are currently feeding it with fuel, with deuterium and tritium. So theoretically, all we really should have to do is toss this holram inside, which starts up the reaction once we flip the switch back there, and we should get some sort of start on this machine. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, because I don't want to have to sit here and wait for this to recharge again, but I'm going to push this button and hopefully we see something happening inside there. Now, just to make sure I don't mess anything up, if I come to the fuel, I set the injection rate to 2. According to the reactor, that is the minimum injection rate that it can have, and I believe it goes up to 99. So we're gonna see what happens when we flip this switch. Oh, so it looks like we do have a reaction inside. The little 3D rendering right there should indicate that. If we come up top to our heat, our plasma is sitting, well, it's going down. It did spike all the way up, but I think that's necessary to start the reaction. And our case heat is going down as well. As far as fuel goes, we have deuterium, we have tritium, and I'm not sure what the center portion is supposed to be, but it is saying that it's empty. Power wise, we are going down as well. So it almost makes me feel like the reaction isn't quite happening. So what happens if we come over to our rate and increase it? So it looks like our plasma is still going down, and our case heat is still going down, and our fuel, we are still empty on the inside. We are consuming fuel though, because I can hear the machines going off in the background. And what about our plug here? It looks like we are outputting about 428,000 RF per tick. So I am just going to keep an eye on this for a little while to make sure that the heat doesn't continue to drop. If it continues to drop, I am going to start to be worried that we're going to lose the reaction inside. So I'm going to sit here and watch this for, I don't know, about 10-20 minutes or so. And if everything goes well, we'll bring you back and we'll continue on with increasing our storage supply over here. So I will be right back. Welcome back. So I've been sitting here for, I'd say a good 15 minutes, just watching the levels on this reactor here, and my heat seems to have plateaued at just under 300,000 and the casing just under 200,000. Now, if we look at the fuel, deuterium and tritium, so we're staying at right around 998 buckets of each. And from my understanding, what's going on here is these two gases are actually being combined by the reactor into the DT fuel. Because one of the options you actually have with this is to pump DT fuel directly into it. I'm choosing not to do that, mainly because of the fact that I have a little bit more of a granular control over the production of the tritium and the deuterium over here, and pumping those directly into it doesn't really seem to be any different than utilizing the DT fuel, since it's essentially making its own DT fuel. Now, if we come down to production, we are producing just under 400,000 RF per tick. That is insane, especially for a pack like this for MC Eternal. I have no use for that. Like, none whatsoever. And we're also kind of limited on power storage. We don't have Draconic Evolution in here, so I can't have the big old floating orb of goodness. So what I'm going to have to do is figure out a place to put this fuel. Because one of my concerns is that when the reactor maxes out its own personal storage, it can store 400 million RF in its internal buffers. And my concern is once that gets full, it's going to stop producing and stop working. And once that happens, once it stops burning the fuel, it's going to die on me. And then I'm going to have to restart it. I'm not too concerned about that, because as it is right now, we are sitting at 896 billion RF that we can store, and we are about to upgrade this. So after we upgrade it and it's full, our induction matrix over here, if this shuts down when it's full, I'm not going to be too concerned. We're going to have enough backup that I can come back here, flip this button again, toss another hull ROM up here. I made an extra just in case. They're not difficult to make. If we come over to Mekanism and click on it, it's just some cold and some gold dust. And I just have to toss that into this chemical infuser here, and I can get this thing started again. So what we're going to do right now is we are going to extend our induction matrix. So I'm just going to break off these top pieces here. Just like this. And I am going to put a ring around the outside. And I'm going to toss in 3 more of the ultimate induction cells. Now this should provide me with about 600 billion more RF of storage. So like I said, we'll be sitting a little bit over 1 trillion RF that we can store once this is done. So yeah, 1.5 trillion RF. So if this keeps running up until the point where our induction matrix is full, I don't think we're going to be hurting too much for power for quite a long period of time. It would probably take me a very, very long time to notice that this was even turned off. So let's check our buffer. Yeah, just from turning it off for a little bit, we saved up almost 200 million RF. This thing is fast and powerful, and I am very surprised that I have never known that this has existed. I've been playing modded for, I'd say several years now, and I've never heard of the Mekanism reactor. So if you're playing MC Eternal or you're playing another pack with Mekanism and the reactor's in it, I would highly recommend that you make this thing. It's so far it just seems awesome. It has fuel that's very easily renewable. especially if you're playing on a pack that's got like Agricraft or something else like that in it. I mean, the deuterium is just about as easy as you can get. Water, fuel, water, fuel. I mean, how can you complain about that? And then, you know, like I said, the lithium, I'm solely powering this generator. I'm making 400,000 RF a tick with water. And if it lets me go up, oh, it wants to play with me. So water and these 6 seeds right here, that is what I'm making 400,000 RF a tick with. So I'm not going to complain if it shuts down occasionally on me. Really nothing to complain about there. But just a quick recap. This is the only shape that this reactor can be built in. The things that you're going to need for it are the reactor frames. I would say about a stack, probably a little bit less. 3 reactor ports, 2 for the fuels going in, 1 for the power coming out. The laser focus matrix, which is very important because that is what the laser needs to shoot through. And yeah, you don't need this many lasers. Like I said, this was my second time starting this thing, and I didn't want to sit here and wait all night for it, so I made way more than I need to. But just one of these laser amplifiers, and even just one of the lasers, it may take you a while, but that theoretically is enough to start it. It just needs to save up 2 billion RF, flip a switch, and there you go. Now the way that you do this is just like anything else. You just set it to high, saying I want a high redstone signal before you fire off. So if you can manage that and you have the resources, it's a very interesting reactor. It's not quite as painful as nuclear craft, but there is a lot of prep work that needs to get done before you can do it. And you know, that prep work requires a lot of RF. So I mean, these things would probably be running at about 8,000 RF per tick just on the crushing factory. It's not running right now, so it's hard to really judge how much it's taking. But yeah, it takes a lot of power to make the things that you need. But the bright side is, once you get to this part, you never have to worry about power again. So I think I am going to call it an episode there. I don't really have anything else that I want to work on in this episode. Today, earlier on stream, we went and we knocked out a little bit of the between lands. And by a little bit, I mean all but one of the achievements. And that was a lot of fun. The between lands are definitely a very interesting location. It's pretty much just all swampland and things that want to hurt you, and giant fish that jump out of the water and try to eat you. So yeah, we had a lot of fun on stream tonight. But as a reminder, I stream on Twitch most Fridays and Saturdays. So if you ever want to come watch the grind in person, just click the link down below. And with that, I will say thank you. Thank you very much for watching this episode. I hope you learned anything. Hope you learned something. And I hope you found the Mekanism reactor as interesting as I do. So as always, if you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, why not? But take care, guys. Stay awesome, and I'll see you next time.